Hi, Jonathan York from Bay Financial Partners, looking at investment markets. With COVID-19 still dominating proceedings, a little bit of brighter news out there. Moderna have come out in the US with potentially some pretty encouraging results on their sort of vaccine program. There's also a study in Oxford University in the UK that also seems to be showing some pretty promising signs. Indeed, the UK government have put out a story that potentially they could have 30 million vaccines by the end of September. Now, obviously, that is a bit of a game changer if you can get a vaccine out there. Certainly these have been rushed through, and really need to see a little bit more data coming through on some wider tests. Certainly, the Moderna test was a pretty small sample, and just need to expand that case just to see how that sort of comes through in a wider case. Also, as well, still a little bit of further development on the sort of potential treatments out there. Gilead still seem to be having some pretty favourable results with their procedures. It's also come out in recent days as well that President Trump has been taking hydroxychloroquine for the last couple of weeks. Now, that has certainly raised a few questions out there with the global media about, firstly, whether he should be taking it, what the implications are, what the side effects, etc. And again, it's very Trump-esque to come out with this sort of statement. Because certainly the US is still doing it pretty tough. Over 1.5 million cases now. Death rate is over 90,000 as they're starting to try and open up the economy again. But certainly there does seem to be a little bit of good news out there. Certainly New York's cases are now back to where they were mid-March, which was really before the pandemic really started to get a hold in New York. And so certainly they appear to flatten the curve a little bit, and so potentially coming down the other side. Now, in terms of market reaction, obviously the news of the potential vaccine out there really saw a pretty major up move in the US share market, and that was spread globally around the equity markets. Was further helped by soothing words from Fed Chair Powell that really came out and said again, the Fed is ready to stand by and do really whatever it needs, and certainly has far more tools in the box to counteract any slowness in the economy. Now, obviously, all this comes on the back of the latest unemployment data out of the US, where we're approaching a 15% unemployment rate. Now, with those numbers, obviously the big worry for the administration is that going into the election in November is that if you still got that really high unemployment rate, it's going to be very hard to get re-elected. Certainly Europe as well is starting to open up its economies. Italy and Spain are coming out of lockdown and really showing some encouraging signs. As to the UK, obviously the UK is still seeing some pretty horrific numbers out there. Death rate is nearly 35,000. Now, on the back of these economies starting to sort of re-emerge and reopen, we've seen oil sort of recover a little bit of lost ground, and again, that's currently trading well above $30 a barrel now. Now, here in New Zealand, obviously the big news was the budget. As expected, it was pretty expansionary. Huge fiscal spending out there, around 60 odd billion. The government has kept back around sort of 20. Now that is for further projects out there, and potentially as well, obviously going into the election in September, the economy isn't starting to recover. There was no helicopter money given out in the budget, but potentially that is always a possibility. And if you were cynical, you would say that's potentially a bit of a political sort of bribe out there. Vote for another 3 years, and you will get this money. As we approach the end for KiwiSaver for the year as well, it's just been interesting to check those balances. Really, just make sure you've got those contributions. Certainly, if you can afford to get that contribution through, $1,042.84. then you obviously will get the maximum tax credit. Now, if you're unclear on what needs to be done, call us on 0800 867 323. Obviously, the interest rate still pretty low. If you're looking for income, there are a few alternative options out there. And if you're interested in discussing what is available, call us on 0800 867 323 or go to the website www.bayfinancialpartners.co.nz for lots of interesting articles. And we look forward to speaking to you soon.